Welcome to our kitchen. Today we prepare a medieval soup with chickpeas from a 14th century cookbook, conventionally called Anonimo Toscano. We start with ingredients. We need chickpeas, eggs, cheese, and the spices, black pepper and saffron. First, we steep the chickpeas in water overnight. The following day, we boil them in unsalted water. The cooking time can change considerably depending on the chickpea variety and how long you steep them in water. Our chickpeas are quite small. We boil them for just 40 minutes. Some chickpea recipes following the suggestion by the medieval physicians recommends asking the chickpeas to make them easier to digest, then cooking the legumes 2 times, discarding the first cooking water. There are many recipes for chickpeas in the medieval manuscripts, in particular in Anonimo Toscano, which is mainly a translation into Tuscan vernacular of an older Latin cookbook, the Liber de Cucina. The recipes are very similar, but with an interesting variation that made us choose the Tuscan version. This recipe is recommended for Saturdays. There are 2 recipes for Saturdays in this cookbook, both without meat, but differently from the lean recipes. In this one we find both eggs and cheese. The methods for chickpeas in this source are 10, with fat and lean recipes, included one for fried ravioli. Meanwhile, we steep the saffron in warm water and grind black pepper in the mortar. We chose black pepper, but if you prefer a stronger and more aromatic flavor, you may use long pepper, very common in the Middle Ages and more expensive than black pepper, or even white pepper if you want to make a more delicate dish. If you want to know more about medieval cooking, we suggest subscribing to our Patreon page, in which you find articles and translations of original sources. There are already available the Opusculum de Saporibus, the Registrum Coquine, and the Appendicula de Condituris Varis. And every month we add a new translation. If you're interested in ancient cuisine, buy our new book, Ancient Roman Cooking, available in English and Italian on Amazon, in both printed and ebook editions. Buying our book or supporting us on Patreon are all ways to help us to continue making new videos. Or if you prefer, you can just buy us a beer. You find all the links in the description below. We prepare the cheese, cutting it into small pieces. We chose a caciotta not too hard. The author of this recipe specifies to cook cheese cut into pieces with the soup, so it surely doesn't mean a very fresh cheese, but neither an aged cheese that would be otherwise grated. For this recipe, we suggest cow or sheep cheese, both widely used in the Middle Ages. If your cheese is very salty, don't add further salt to the soup, as it's common in the medieval recipes. Otherwise, if it is quite sweet, salt your soup as you like. If you prefer, you may add the cheese at the end of the cooking, and don't let it melt completely as we are doing, and you will obtain a perfectly good dish anyway. When the chickpeas are almost cooked through, we add 2 pinches of salt, the saffron, black pepper and cheese. Then we cook for another 5 minutes, stirring frequently to dissolve the cheese well and prevent it from sticking to the bottom of the pot. In the medieval sources, we find described 3 main kinds of chickpeas: white, red, and black. According to Pietro de Crescenzi, an agronomist lived between the 13th and the 14th century, there are small and big chickpeas with hard and soft husks. The best are the ones with soft husks. Michele Savonarola, in the 14th century, considers red chickpeas the most temperate and, as a consequence, the best to keep good health. As we mentioned before, it is better to ask them to make them easier to digest. And this is a medical suggestion shared by many medieval physicians. To remove the potential harm from the chickpeas, in particular to prevent them from causing bloats, Savonarola recommends cooking them with pepper and sage, which would make an excellent addition to this soup. Then we prepare 1 poached egg for each serving. We lower the heat and gently add the egg. We slowly stir the soup to give a bit of shape to the poached egg. It is important not to stir too fast or too deep, otherwise the chickpeas will rise from the bottom of the pot and break the egg. Then we cook the egg for a couple of minutes, keeping the soup just below the boiling point. The Liber de Cucina recommends using both poached eggs and beaten eggs to prepare this soup, whereas Anonimo Toscano suggests choosing just one method for the eggs. The addition of eggs in the medieval soups is very common, in particular beaten eggs, meant to give to the plate a pleasanter thickness. Our soup turned out very tasty despite its simplicity. Chickpeas and melted cheese make a thick broth, slightly sweet with saffron, hearty and warming. The flavors are simple and well balanced, and the raw egg yolk blends with the delicious flavor of the chickpeas and the soup. A plate very easy to make and perfect for this cold season, paired with good wine and a medieval bread, for example made with walnuts or millet. You find the links to the bread recipes in the description below. If you're interested in ancient foods and flavors, subscribe our channel and consider supporting us on Patreon.